Hey everyone, this is Trebus here with SC2 Noob School, and today I've got a Protoss strategy for you. This is PPG Bubbles from the North American server versus Wreck Dark Cell. Don't know a whole lot about either of these players, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to be watching mostly from the Protoss's perspective. And just to give you a quick overview of what the build is going to be, basically it is a very typical 3 gateway expand where you get a lot of sentries out, chrono boost a lot of probes, and then when you expand, you've got a lot of probes to transfer over. And then he just adds on a massive amount of barracks. In fact, he gets a total of 7 barracks. Sorry, not barracks, warp gates, and then pushes out with those warp gates and pretty much just overruns the Zerg opponent. When you've got 7 warp gates that are able to reinforce straight to the battlefield, straight to a proxy pylon, it is pretty tough to deal with, and it's a really strong push, and I just kind of wanted to look at it for myself so I could take it and copy it. He's not the only one doing this build. Certainly there's other people been doing this. I know OGSMC, if you watch GSL, has done something similar to this, but I don't have his replays, so we're watching Bubbles. Okay, so now the first thing, this is just a typical Protoss opening. If you don't know what a typical Protoss opening looks like, I do have a standard Protoss opener guide, but he's just going for 9 pylon. He's going for 14, you can go for 13 or 14 gateway, and then he's going to get an assimilator after this, cybernetics core, and it's ready. The notable thing about this build is notice every time he gets 25 energy, he's continuing to chrono boost out probes. You actually need to get a huge number of probes so that whenever your Nexus finally does come out, you can just transfer over half your probes and have it instantly be saturated. He is going to be oversaturated at his main base for a while. Just because he is chrono boosting so many probes. So at the start of the build, we'll go ahead and check over, see what he's scouting. Scouting nothing unusual at all, just a pool first build, likely going to be a hatchery coming down sometime soon. Not going to follow that too much. So, get this cybernetics core out as soon as you can, and the biggest goal until you get your expansion up is to get as many sentries as you can. And the reason you get sentries instead of any other unit is because you need a cost-effective way to get your expansion. Now, if you try to expand using just zealots and stalkers or something, you can easily get overrun by mastlings or tons of roaches or something like that. But with sentries, you can force field your ramp, cut their armies in half, and just really make yourself very cost-efficient. So after it gets the cybernetics core, when the cybernetics core is about halfway done, throw on the second assimilator, and then be looking at your gas. You basically are trying to get as many sentries out as your gas will support. So he gets a zealot first, then he's going to get a stalker, simply to get rid of this drone scout, and then the rest of this is going to be entirely sentries. He's getting himself supply blocked. Bad, Bubbles, bad. Don't supply block yourself, that's not part of the build, I promise. It doesn't work. Also, if you weren't already aware, whenever you've got a zealot blocking this entrance, keep him on hold position. That way no units can just run by him. So look at the probe saturation now. He's got a huge amount of probes, and going to be adding on a couple gateways. So around the 32-ish supply mark, or a little bit after your stalker finishes, is I think a little bit better way to think about it. Throw on some more gateways, use your gas for the gateways, and use all your energy for these sentries. You should be able to get out, I believe, 2 sentries from the gateway before the cybernetics core finishes, and then when the core finishes, these other 2 gateways will be done, and you'll be able to expand. So when you're doing this, you'll notice that at about this point in the build, you're starting to pool up minerals. You really can't spend the minerals, you don't have enough buildings to do it. You're making sentries, which are only 50 minerals and 100 gas, so you can go ahead and get your expansion down. Now, he doesn't exactly have as many units as he really needs to secure the expansion at this exact second, but when Warpgate finishes, you've got 100 or several hundred Vespian gas, and you can pop out a couple more sentries, and then it will pretty much be safe. This ramp takes exactly 2 force fields to completely close off. Okay, so this is the point where production, for the most part, stops. He's got 3 gateways up, or 3 warp gates up. He's got his expansion coming up, and now he's not worrying about making more units. His expansion is safe. He just needs to get tons of gateways out. So when your expansion is about halfway done, just start adding on gateways. Pretty much as many gateways as you can afford. Once again, extremely good probe saturation. Going to be able to transfer half of those. And notice he's still chrono boosting probes. Be chrono boosting probes this entire time. You know, maybe throw 1 or 2 on the cybernetics core, but for the most part, probes, 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 probes. And don't get yourself supply blocked. I think because he got himself supply blocked, he's able to support fully 7 warp gates. Okay, so here's the probe transfer. Transferring about half of the probes mining minerals. Actually, exactly half of the probes mining minerals. Wow, that was really good. And then this is when the push is going to come out. All these warp gates are starting to pop out. You've got these sentries that have been here the entire game, so they're starting to build up a nice amount of energy. So this is when you move out and just start reinforcing with stalkers and stalkers and more stalkers. Notice you don't get the gas here. For this build, you're not going to be getting any sentries, so you don't need that much gas. You just need these 2 gas geysers from your main, so you can make as many stalkers as you can, and then whatever's left over, make into zealots. So here comes the push. Darkcell has 2 spine crawlers up and a handful of banelings and some zerglings. Really, his unit count is quite low right now, but he's going to be able to mass up quite a few units here. And in fact, he gets off a nice little baneling bomb. You see he has Burrow almost done researching. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, Burrow's almost done, and he's burrowing in banelings right here. Notice all that Bubbles has warped in so far is just stalkers. He's using all of his gas for stalkers, the rest of his minerals for pylons, and for zealots if he can't support any more than that. So moving up here into the ramp, baneling bomb, kapow! Actually, that was a huge hit to Bubbles' army count. In fact, he lost almost all of his sentries, which is huge. They didn't even get to put off like 1 single force field. So that's really, really bad for Bubbles. But luckily, he just has enough warp gates that he can just continue to reinforce and just force his way into the Zerg's base. While you're doing this push, be constantly pushing W to see if your hotkeys are on cooldown. If they are, start warping in more units, and always be watching your supply to make sure you're not going to get supply blocked. This is a good time where those sentries would have been nice. Could have force fielded all the Zerglings out and taken some free shots, but he's pretty much just having to brute force his way in here. You see he's out of gas right now. Spend his gas on a sentry, and so he's just warping in zealots. Just whatever your economy will support is where you should be spending your money. Zealots are coming in here able to tank up a lot of damage of these Zerglings, while the stalkers below just fire on everything. Able to get a transfuse off on the spine crawlers, but they're just so many units. Able to continually reinforce. He's basically always got warp gates that are not on cooldown. I guess you can't see the cooldown from there. But he's able to warp in units as soon as he has enough money. I think this build is actually possible with 6 warp gates instead of 7, but I don't know. Maybe the way he's doing it, you can actually support that many gateways. I'm not so sure about that though. You see he's continually spending all his money, getting a full warp in of zealots to protect his stalkers. Need to get a nice mix of zealots and stalkers. Zealots will take out all the zerglings, stalkers can take out anything else. And this is pretty much going to be game right here. You notice as soon as he gets gas, he's able to warp in a couple of stalkers, and that's his unit of choice. Next warp in, going to be zealots. So just pop back and forth between can I make zealots, can I make stalkers, and rally them all in here. And this is a really strong push. You can see it just overwhelms the Zerg. You're able to reinforce so incredibly well that the Zerg really can't keep up with that. I'd call this a semi-all-in build because mostly because you're spending 0 money on teching. Now you do get a good economy, but I think the tech loss that you take could be somewhat detrimental. But either way, a really nice build. I'm going to be trying this myself on the ladder, so hope you guys enjoy it. GG.